so much history for this player, and we talk about that flexibility in the chaos. Rolling with the punches, SOS is going to be definitely comfortable in this metagame. You know, some people call it cheesy, some say it's uncomfortable. To SOS, this is his home. This is the place he has always meant to belong. And I'm just very curious to see, because ShoWTimE no doubt has a lot of practice in this, but I feel like there's a point if you go too far down the rabbit warren of the crazy scenarios, that SOS will grow stronger and ShoWTimE will grow a little bit more confused about what's happening in the game.
I am awfully worried about that. Big fan of ShoWTimE myself, but SOS, I mean, sometimes you have to be a fan of them. Just like, okay, that was too silly. All right, like you got my vote. But ShoWTimE was facing a Mana, another kind of cheesy Protoss, and it was all proxy robo, which a lot of people say is quite good. The idea of like a hard counter, just like you're silly for trying it, is like not really supposed to be very easy to get to. But ShoWTimE was slapping it down, man. His response to Mana twice, I believe, and then even another PvP, was actually a 3-gate.
Oh,
that can finding the pylon and then
getting on top of it.
Yeah, getting on top of it.
That's really nice if you can pull that one off. And obviously that all comes down to kind of scouting. And one of the funny things in this metagame is hiding the second pylon and then just doing tech at home or an expansion is also something that kind of rotates in. So keeping my eyes on that, since SOS has gone for a very conservative proxy location down there, it looks like it might actually just be an expand build here for SOS.
Oh, all right. So ShoWTimE, I mean, going for double stalker, it's a very common response for if you do think they're proxying, which, I mean, he did hide the pylon. So you got to take that idea and be like, well, they could absolutely use it. I'm not going to get a second scout for a while, especially if you pull back the probe immediately to start scouting for that second pylon, right? You're not going to stick around for what pops out of the gateways.
And ShoWTimE here committing 2 probes to scouting every corner of the map. Unfortunately, this means he has no information about the Sentry Stalker.
Right.
That's what's the most important thing. If he saw it was just one Stalker and that it was actually a Sentry, he might be able to realize that this is a quick expand. But SOS now going up to a 3rd and 4th Stalker. He's going to be dropping a Nexus momentarily. And ShoWTimE doesn't know because he didn't see the second pylon. Of course, it's hidden on the map. And he's searching everywhere. But ShoWTimE, brave, even in the face of what appears to probably be a proxy build. He's just going to go for a couple sentries, his own Nexus, and immediately both players going up to 2 base.
It's amazing to find that pylon and confirm that nothing's there, but apparently ShoWTimE just, he was willing to take a bit of a risk perhaps, but he followed up with 2 sentries, a Nexus, and didn't really take a whole lot of punishment for not having 100% of the information. Now SOS also didn't, but SOS is, I mean, he's about to, hallucinate Phoenix. But he was, I mean, he chose his build and he executed it. Seems like he was really wanting to do anything else, and ShoWTimE didn't try and hide any pylons. So Robo to, well, I assume it was a Robo, right?
Yeah, I don't think
actually, aha, yes, I wanted to bring this up. Aha, zombie grub strats. Twilight Council has been very, very popular in Korea. Like, Blink is a popular way of playing in PvP in Korea. But, I mean, I was sitting there, like, watching all these Korean cups, and I was like, is it? Like, is it really? And all the Europeans weren't doing it. So, I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to be something even, like, weirder or different. But if it's Blink, then that's what I was, like, specifically bringing up that point about Korea versus non-Korea about, too. So that's exciting. We're about to see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very, very cool to see. Of course, glaive adept timing attacks and things like that, always potential, same with charge. But I actually really enjoy a Blink meta. It's something where, obviously, Stalkers are not the greatest damage output for their cost. But the Blink, it gives you an ability to be annoying, to be maneuverable, to be flexible, to kind of go in and find openings where you may. SOS is actually not using the Twilight Council at all just yet, so I think he's kind of changed his mind, not sure exactly what he scouted to make him do that. Potentially was thinking about DTs with the Twilight Council, but saw the quick Robo and said, ooh, not really a great idea.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Yeah, you know, DTs, and then that really just shut down. But it's, I mean, funnily enough, it's ShoWTimE going for the Blink. He's already added on some Immortals as well as that Forge, leading us to believe it will be a longer game here as they get that +1 and probably +2. But delaying his gas just a little bit, where SOS is already on top of that. There we go. And very quickly in a charge. Like, it's Twilight Council first, then adding on the extra 2 structures. I mean, that it usually is the reverse, right? But
yeah, quick Templar Archives as well, right? That immediately makes me think of Charge-Lot Archon +1 attack. Yeah. I think we'll see, you know, quite a lot more gateways coming down, as is standard. But the thing is, it's flexible. Charge-Lot Archon is such a scary army in the open ground. You can go it, your opponent can spot it, suddenly be very afraid. You can just take a third. You can probe that up very quickly. And, you know, ShoWTimE is going for the lower damage, more technical composition. More Immortals. He's adding the Blink. His upgrades are a little bit behind, but Blink Stalkers, if you invest in, say, 10, 12 Stalkers against a Zealot Archon player, you kind of have to micro them out. You need to harass, backstab, try to pull them home. Anytime in a big committed battle, the Charged Archon is just way better. So ShoWTimE needs to recognize this, and he needs to avoid a fight in the open. He may even need to wall off his natural expansion if it comes to that.
Did he get Blink? Did that actually finish? He's not working on any Stalkers, that's why I'm asking. And then,
okay.
I mean,
yeah.
This is very odd. Was it a mistake? Was he just like, he figured it'd be a different game? Was he expecting Blink from SOS because he got that scout and that's why SOS didn't go for Blink and it's just PvP mind games and I'm sick of it? I don't know. But we're getting into regular PvP.
I'd actually like to see ShoWTimE maybe cancel that Nexus and just go take one in the corner or something like that, because I don't think he can hold on against this push. That is why we saw the Blink cancelled, his own charge +1 on the way. But you know what? I think that's already 3 Archons for SOS. And the Templar Archive's not quite finished just yet for ShoWTimE.
This is going to be really close. 2 Archons morphing in with the shield batteries finishing up, +1 finishing up for ShoWTimE as well, but he will be lacking that charge. Will that be the big difference maker? Hallucinating a couple of Archons. I don't believe there's an Observer on the front line, so that will soak some shots, and the shield batteries will certainly help out.
Yeah, I mean, even though there's no charge for ShoWTimE yet, the Zealots still have the same damage output. And you know what? Holding the Concave, the second shield battery finishing there. These Archons doing some great work, and more Zealots coming in. Great ferrying there from the Prism, keeping those Archons alive for now. SOS continuing to warp in more and more, but he's lost one of his Archons.
Yeah, very good focus fire here from ShoWTimE. We've got the Archon, then started focus firing down the Stalkers, and is absolutely demolishing this fight. SOS forced to retreat, but awfully late in my opinion. That was already going rather poorly for him. He's going to have to try and do some pretty sick harassment. He does have a 3rd Nexus, but actually so does ShoWTimE. Very even probe count. It's now just that ShoWTimE has that momentum. He's still chasing after the Warp Prism as well, which has a couple of units that cannot actually fight those Archons. Will it be a counter? He has to know the Warp Prism is going to try and do some damage in his main. That's
so unfortunate for SOS. Didn't even kill the 3rd Nexus. I don't think he even knew it was there. And it was just out in the open. SOS 100% could have taken out that 3rd base, fallen back, and then had the base advantage. But he pushed a little bit harder, thinking he had an opening. And of course, ShoWTimE, solid as ever, does hold on. He's now got a small upgrade advantage and really defending that Prism quite smoothly. So ShoWTimE ahead in many regards right now. Going to get a few little pickoffs here as well. And we don't really see a lot of probe production, so I see a big +2 charge lot Archon Immortal attack for ShoWTimE in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, but it might be matched by SOS just at an inferior army count from the get-go, which, I mean, maybe Tank being made up with a good concave. Shield batteries played a part in that last engagement. It could this time, if SOS were getting any, but he's not. ShoWTimE's already moving across the map, already prepared to end this game. He's got a 20 army supply lead here, and he is packing those Immortals, whereas SOS is not.
Yeah, that's a lot of Zealots, but the Archons, of course, become very powerful against that. I like the choice here from ShoWTimE. There's no natural advantage right here, but now as he pulls the Archons across the map, as he pulls all of his units over to this side, that is where his force does grow in strength. No more probe production just yet, I don't believe, for ShoWTimE, but he's pulling home and he restarts his probes. So he's going to go to that next step, adding gases on the 3rd base as well. He doesn't want to throw it away by taking an over-eager engagement into this beautiful spread of SOS.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your army supplies are a bit different. There was a very small upgrade timing that's now basically being lost, but you don't really want to force the issue if they're obviously prepared for the engagement and they have a similar composition. Again, no, not any Immortals, but that sometimes doesn't seem to add a lot if they get cornered by those Zealots. But now it's ShoWTimE that's going to have to defend as SOS moves out with his +2. But I can't believe SOS looks at this and also, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, but like ShoWTimE's on the one that's on the defense, already in a concave. SOS going to try and drop something in the main base, it looks like, but ShoWTimE has a couple of units there. That's not going to work.
So many Zealots, 33 for SOS, 28 for ShoWTimE. And there we go, ShoWTimE, he's getting in with a small counterattack, but at the same time, SOS pounces in from both sides. Those Archons very exposed to the right-hand side, but they get pulled to the back. The Warp Prism here definitely paying off for ShoWTimE so far. And as those Zealots disappear for SOS, we see those 2 Immortals just hailing in with so much damage from the back. The Immortals starting to gun down those Archons.
Yeah, picking us up the Archons, they will eventually punch through their extreme shields, and that is going to be game 1 in favor of our German player. even in the messy matchup that is PvP against the messiest player, one of the messiest players we've seen anyways. ShoWTimE held strong.
Yeah, he manages to just kind of keep that one relatively clean. And it does come back to the confidence there in the early game, taking the quick expand despite not having 100% information, not falling for SOS trick. Really, SOS was hoping for a bigger overreaction. He wanted to get an economic lead. I don't think he realized just how fast ShoWTimE's Nexus was. So ShoWTimE maybe having a heads up on SOS's build orders, maybe just kind of got a good idea, had some star sense of what was going on, because essentially they had the exact same opening in that it was just a quick Nexus. It's just SOS was a bit trickier with his hit the pylon. ShoWTimE committed a little bit more to the scouting with the second probe.
I mean, the most interesting thing for me was that Twilight Council choice. I mean, for both of them, how they used it, right? Twilight Council first is like usually supposed to be used for something other than going into a normal Charge Out Archon situation. It's for the Adepts, it's for the DTs, it's for apparently Blink nowadays. But he just got it and then was like, never mind, I'm not going to use it. And then eventually use it as you would normally. But to get it that fast, to get it first, was, I thought, going to be something tricky. And maybe it was supposed to be. But it's very weird when you have tricks in a mid-game PvP, because then everyone's sending out Hallucinated Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, part of me is like, oh, was he going to put a DT shrine down at the pylon? But it's like, well, hallucinations are going to go over that. What prisms are going to fly over that? It's not really a very secretive position. So definitely something where that scouting of ShoWTimE, of course, seeing the big attack coming across the map, preparing for it. I think SOS did miss an opportunity to just go for the third base of ShoWTimE and pull back. So I think otherwise he would have found himself in a good position. That is, of course, only one map. Best of 3 is going to continue. The next map, Ephemeron, a little bit of a smaller map. Yeah,
you know, we could have SOS being like, oh, you know, I tried the later, you know, weirdness. Now I'm going to try it super early and really kick this up into an SOS PvP. But ShoWTimE looked very confident in that game, and then definitely in the camera just there. He was like, yeah, totally expected that. I also really respect ShoWTimE's like cancel of Blink, getting those Templar archives, getting the Templars up as fast as he did just in a nick of time, and affording those 2 shield batteries really made that fight look convincing. So he's just, despite whatever people say about PvP, ShoWTimE seems like he has great control over it.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to be launching in to a map and number 2 of this Protoss vs. Protoss, and looking to seal it out, looking to go through to those group stages. Representing Big Esports in the bottom right, in the red, he is ShoWTimE.
In the top left, repping Korea and generic green wings. He's the Blue Protoss, SOS. Do you think the map will play a huge part here?
You know, I'm curious about that. There are, I guess, overall less places to proxy. Sometimes searching Triton, if someone's willing to proxy in a very odd position, seems like an impossible task. But here on Ephemeron, not as many areas. Definitely something we're going to see a very early scout for ShoWTimE, going straight across the map here after the gateway. So going to go very early information, double check there's no cannon rush. And for SOS, no scout just yet. Very standard opening so far.
I mean, SOS really did start off the last game. Again, like the pylon aside is almost not worth mentioning, because it is so common now for people to send that second pylon out and either use it or not use it. But it is no longer one of those like, well, that was just like a mind game and he's never gonna do it again. Like they'll probably both do it at some point. But besides that, he almost like, it seemed like he was totally comfortable with the idea that it would go into at least that mid game as he opened up with that Stalker Sentry, which can be a very dangerous thing to do against someone who is going to be aggressive. But I suppose, like, ShoWTimE's not really the guy who would ever think that. He has been really, it seems like, trying hard to abolish that image of him, though. Some of these online cups, he has been nothing but all-in-y and cheesy.
It's good to mix it up. I mean, I think especially for a guy whose nickname is The Wall, to start just cheesing people and throw out those aggressive plays, and it really does make you much more difficult to prepare for. So double Adept here for SOS to change things up against the double Stalker from ShoWTimE. So no proxy pylons just yet. Both players going to be opening up on one base. Low ground pylon for SOS. Looks like he might be keen on a relatively early expand, of course. Both of them getting set up for that. Normally with the double Adept, I do expect a Stargate follow-up, but for now, SOS just banking gas.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's quite common. I mean, maybe into You could afford 2 sentries, yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. It's 2 sentries. Not the same for ShoWTimE, though. I believe ShoWTimE did do a rather aggressive, as I was saying, he was 3-gating against Mana, like with all the proxy robos, but there's also that tricky just non-stop stalker production, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I see this on a decent amount on Ephemeron, but is that really going to do? 2 more stalkers coming out here despite not seeing any intent on pressure from SOS. Will it be 2 more after that? No, I guess for Nexus.
Nexus and a sentry after that, so 4 stalkers to start. Yeah, this is a nice kind of just real, expand-focused openings from these players, and I guess just being confident. So the proxy robo meta doesn't seem to be something that ShoWTimE or SOS really have on their menu. They both seem much more focused on going up to 2 base, and here we go, very good catch. That Adept should go down. Notice trying to get the other Adept in front. She wants to distract, she wants to body block, and she actually does save her.
Wow. So these guys should have been in Anaheim, right? Doing Warcraft 3. that was pretty cool. Lucid
Very
Phoenix
nice.
is an interesting idea. Like that is, they both don't know what that 2nd tier tech is past Warp Gate, and for SOS it is once again a Twilight Council first. So might see what he intended to do last game in this game.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
Same for ShoWTimE.
I mean, the Adept's still coming around. We've got that Oracle. It's going to poke in. And as the players start to get some information, that's where we really see into their mindset. Of course, the safety battery there sees ShoWTimE's Twilight Council blink starts up. That blink that you were talking about, Zombie Grub. So straight into it this time. Yeah,
it really did sound like Estrella did in depth with Artosis and No Regret, and he made it seem like blink was just absolutely normal. that's why I was like, is it a screen ladder thing? But if ShoWTimE does the same thing, then he might just be either up on that strategy. Maybe it's a meta that does exist on the ladder for Europe and I just haven't seen it too much. Or maybe also at a special brand of things, but he is delaying that blink.
It is an odd experience when you first run into someone who has truly world-class micro with their blink stalkers in this matchup, because we always talk about how the stalkers don't carry their weight when there's Immortals, Archons, and Zealots all fighting each other. But it's hard to force that fight when your opponent is in your face with a bunch of stalkers. They're able to teleport into your main base. Sometimes they split off squads of 4 stalkers to start one-shotting probes and then recalling them out. You see robos get sniped and swaps into DTs. There's just a real ability to skill check your opponent, pressure them and get in their face. So I want to see SOS, really get out on the map and try to be aggressive with those stalkers.
It's probably the more fun way to play things. Like there's more emphasis on being out on the map, but it's also like, I'm not just turtling at 2 bases. But that's besides the point. Like they're doing this because it is good in many ways. I mean, sometimes you face someone who is just like very safe, takes absolutely no damage to those blinks you were talking about, and just has more Immortals, a better army, and you're like, oh, well, there you go. But, faster thirds can come down. It's not a situation where they're doing 2 different things, though. They're actually doing very, very similar things up until about now. I mean, SOS has faster blink, the faster forge, but they both had it. Now SOS adding on a lot more gateways than ShoWTimE. A couple of units went down there, but did he? Oh, yeah, that's the big difference. More gateways for SOS, a third for ShoWTimE.
I mean, it's a good gateway count for ShoWTimE as well. I think he's going up to 5 or 6, whilst SOS is going right up to 7 or 8. So, it's going to be an interesting battle of Stalkers and Sentries versus Stalkers and Sentries. Charge now added in for the follow-up, as well as Templar Archives for SOS. Looks like he doesn't want to press, and he's also setting up to take a 3rd Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Blink, the idea, I think, is that you can kind of contain someone who doesn't, and you get the faster 3rd. But it's just funny because SOS does have Blink, and he didn't necessarily start that pressure, but he is finally moving on the map. ShoWTimE saw what maybe could have been a real push, but probably wants to double-check that. He's got his own charge on the way. Very similar compositions post this. No one going out on the map with their Blink Stalkers, though. They're both just chilling. Like, SOS finally starting, but it's actually alongside his push.
A lot of respect here from ShoWTimE. Builds a 3rd Nexus and puts 1 probe, mining it. This is how you use a 3rd base in PvP. It's literally just something you put down to force your opponent to attack into you. It's this kind of odd thing where going past 45 probes is incredibly scary. ShoWTimE, one of the most macro-heavy Protoss players, says, you know what, I'll build 1 more. Let's go 46 before just committing to charge lots and Archons. You know, SOS is a little ahead of him on the production, so just keep your eyes on those Archons, but they're so crisp. The moment the Templar Archives finished, ShoWTimE just immediately 4 High Templar, 2 Archons, and he's also starting his +2. So if this game goes for a few more minutes, ShoWTimE will get a big advantage, but right now, SOS has a very scary army.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10 hour supply up, so that could be a defender's advantage and a better concave. We'll see if they use their Stalkers as well. Perhaps a War Prism could go down. Both of them Guardian shielding real quick here.
Oh, the Archon! From the back. The Archon goes down there for ShoWTimE so quickly.
Yeah, and he blinks forward maybe to try and catch that War Prism, but into the fire of the Archons, and the Stalkers finally catch the War Prism. They have sacrificed all of themselves to do so. The War Prism of ShoWTimE going to try and make magic out of whatever's left over here, and maybe, nah, it's actually not even a maybe. He absolutely cannot hold. The probes are being pulled, and he thinks maybe, but no, nope, not any maybes.
Those slow Zealots just walking slowly into that battle for ShoWTimE as well. Just a little bit too far behind, and SOS that time dispatching of his opponent in a very one-sided engagement. ShoWTimE trying to press too far ahead. An extra upgrade, an extra Nexus, an extra probe, it all does add up, and SOS able to get in there at the crucial moment.
I mean, do you think the positioning for that as well played a huge part? It seemed like he was anticipating either option, which you have to, either they go into the third or they go into the natural, and he wasn't quite committed to defending either one. I feel like if his Archons were there, his Stalkers came in a bit sooner when the War Prism was over the choke, that's when I was like, maybe he could do it.
Yeah, I mean,
he tried 5 seconds after, and it was kind of weird at that point.
They add good damage, right? The Stalkers just as general ranged units, but they blink into Zealots and Archons, they don't last very long at all. So if you can hold a concave, and it really is about buying time, isn't it? Unfortunately, there's no shield batteries that can help you out in the middle between the natural and the third. That's why SOS did choose to strike that angle. Obviously, seeing that the ShoWTimE's force wasn't in position is a big part of that. But yeah, ShoWTimE, I mean, when you're in that defensive position, you cannot lose track of your opponent's army for a moment. You've got to be ready.
Yeah. It looks like we actually have some updates for the other matches. So let's go to the desk.
That's right, guys. Sol versus Gerald. It's 1-1 currently in that lower bracket. Let's check in what's going on. Rotterdam.
Gotta go right now because things are getting very nasty in this game. This game was almost over, by the way. Let's go into the laptop. My face doesn't matter right now. It's rare, but it doesn't matter.
Your face always matters.
All right, so the score is 1-1. You guys saw the tail end of that crazy first game. In this game, believe it or not, Sol killed 55 orc. Well, it's 77 now, but he killed 55 at one point with drilling claws. Gerald was supposed to be dead, but he's got a lot of disruptor boys, and this game is getting a little wild. He just lost 40 supply trying to kill a planetary. Did not get it, by the way, but he's still in the game. Don't ask me how. It's Protoss, it's magic, and he kind of needs to get the job done real soon.
Oh man, this looks really, really dicey. The disruptors are such a big problem here for Sol, though. He just doesn't have a huge amount of liberators. He doesn't have a huge anti-disruptor, I guess, counterplay here by the looks of things.
Don't forget, tournament live on the line for both these guys. This is the lower bracket. Gerald is still fighting, man. Now he's gonna get an orbital. This is actually a very wild series. This game, it felt so disastrous, and at one point you're like, maybe you can get something done. It's like, nah, maybe not. I mean, obviously it's so hard to get up to this ramp. Or this ramp over here. I really can't do it. No, sorry guys. I tried, but it's the wrong hand, okay guys?
Just so everyone at home knows, we have drawing tools in our PCs, all right?
We don't have advanced ballistics. There is a fusion core, but this game has just been way too hectic. So is once again counterattacking. He's actually down in supply at this point. I don't think Gerald can recall, because he recalled right before we jumped into this game as well. But this series is nuts, man. These two Polish players are just putting it all on the line. And Gerald is having actually a pretty damn good showing. He also defeated Christiana in the round before. So the cool thing is they already finished in the money, but obviously they want more.
I think it's really cool because it's got a lot of repercussions from game one, because Sol was also ahead in that first game, kind of like he was here. Yeah. And Gerald's kind of putting it back in the same sort of wave, like a lot of disruptors, a lot of splash damage, and Sol not taking good fights.
After Sol lost that orbital, he might be panicking a little bit, because even though Gerald is broke, Gerald has a lot of bases, Sol really wants to do something about it.
Oh, good siege position for the Liberators.
Yeah, that next is super dead. Now Gerald's gonna counterattack again. Can he get the planetary? This is the 5th try this game, and this time, guys, I think we'll get it. Kaboom!
Just a handful of disruptors. That's going to pretty much seal the fate here of this planetary.
Oh my god.
Does that mean Sol loses though, Roddy? I mean, Gerald's starting to climb up quite high in supply here. His army's looking very solid.
Yep, I look at very few medevacts here.
Nice yellow line.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to push, right? Look at Gerald. Is Gerald actually going to cause a massive upset? He has Sol started so well to this tournament, defeating Denver in the first round. But he is in all the trouble at this point. He killed 55 probes, guys, with drilling claws.
Wow.
I actually think the game is pretty much over.
Yeah, it's really tough because Soul, if he unsieges those libs to move forwards, he's just going to get jumped on, right?
It is one orbital command
All
at
right.
this point. I'm sorry, James.
That's fine. Don't worry. I know you're keen. I know you're keen. You can toss a coin to your Protoss and everything like that as Gerald wins. And that is going to be that for that series, we think. Now back to our main series here of the show as we go back over to our commentators.
Kind of watching. Whoops. I'm honestly kind of watching that game behind them. Seemed to be a sick fight. But yes, we still have game number 3 of SOS versus ShoWTimE ready for us. It's going to be on Nightshade, and we should get started soon.
That's my favorite map. Should be a good one. There's some dicey kind of areas in the edges of this map. Some big wide open areas with the third base as well as the natural expansion. So Protoss versus Protoss, map 3. And I mean, the defensive god ShoWTimE, or the aggressive madman SOS, the man who is known to step up and play so well when there's a lot of money on the line. And you know what's something about? I hear there's a little bit of prize money for this tournament.
There's a fair amount. It goes down pretty far as well, which is always awesome to hear. You hear a lot of the devs talk about how they're already in the money. They're just here and they won like one match. Like, good job, guys! It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, normally you go to a tournament, you win one match though. It's versus, Ninja Warrior 667, from Masters League. At this tournament, winning a match is kind of a little bit difficult because everyone here is so damn good, and we're going to be diving into this next one. I mean, these are the guys who are beyond good. They are some of the absolute best Protoss players out there. And here in this PvP meta, we are about to see, is it going to be more quick expansions or is someone going to get super cheesy?
I mean, I keep waiting for it, but it's actually been kind of, a little standard. It's game number 3. Whoever wins this moves on to the group stage on Thursday. In the bottom right, as the blue Protoss, he is SOS.
And up here in the top left-hand side, in the red, representing big esports, known as The Wall, he is ShoWTimE.
It's kind of amazing how far you jump forward for winning this match to me. Like, we still have another bracket, another 2 brackets tomorrow, and then you're just instantly in the round of 24. Like, poof, it's a big jump.
Yeah, it is a huge step. I tell you, every player, I mean, we heard Patience say earlier, just a sigh of relief to get done. I don't want to go through the lower bracket. I don't want to, have to go through these grueling matches. Of course, he's also got a little bit of jet lag the later the day goes as well. But, it's just something, the quicker you can finish these off and get through, there's a big relief off your shoulders. There's so much more prize money just for getting through to those group stages. But then you're in that round robin stage. A group of 6 players, you get 5 matches. You can slip up, and it's not quite as punishing in those as it is in these elimination offline qualifiers.
That's absolutely true. In fact, last year's winner started off terribly in his group stage. Sue, remember?
Barely made it through, didn't he?
Yeah, he barely made it through. Ended up winning the entire thing. So it's, it's that or the other. But yeah, they are a big test. Whereas these, especially in matchups that are maybe figured out, feel a little uncomfortable in them, you get that one chance, and then it's suddenly only one more, and then you're out. Any of these guys that have actually already fallen out, when I was on the desk, I was just thinking like, man, they came here, they tried their best, and it's just so brutal. But these guys still in the winner's bracket are still probably feeling confident, even if whoever loses. I think they have a decent run. In the lower brackets, we do not have any pylons out in the map once again.
SOS is playing such solid openings here. It's all about scouting his probe, just checking what ShoWTimE's up to. He's setting up for the expand. He's going a very quick sentry and stalker, which means he wants to get the fastest possible hallucination scout to check what his opponent's tech is, what their setup looks like. And this is just interesting. To me, it tells me that SOS, he's devoting his critical energies, his ability to kind of find that edge in the game, which often we think of him doing that in the early game, but he's just as capable of doing it in the mid game. He's a player who will cut an upgrade. He will make it look like he's doing something else and go in a very different direction. So I think after that last game where it was almost a relatively straightforward attack where he just kind of skipped some upgrades, went for a sharp timing attack, I'm curious what he brings out in game 3 because I don't think ShoWTimE will let that work again.
Yeah, I mean, he stopped it from happening in the first game, actually, like very, very well, but second game was a different story. We have, once again, those like slightly different openers to the same conclusion, similar amount of sentries and stalkers. Just thinking of what could be happening on the other side of the map as you lose that probe. Now they're again scouting each other. We'll say Phoenix. It is what you would say is like mostly the standard PvP if it wasn't for the big mix-ups lately, which is a Robo, just coming down for ShoWTimE. And SOS with the Twilight Council. We might actually see that dynamic of Blink versus the Robo defensive player in this game.
That's a really quick Robo, kind of after the expand there. And it is going to be the Twilight again here for SOS, who's Phoenix kind of goes, hey, what are you up to, dude? You should have some, you know, you're going that Robo there. Okay, you're just going to play very careful, very defensive. So, I mean, this is an opportunity where you can go DTs. It seems like, from what we've seen, Blink is what SOS wants to go to control the start of that mid-game.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm excited to see Blink, actually. I would be kind of bummed if it was DTs, because this is how we get to see why it's becoming a thing again, against the arguably very standard thing of Robo follow-up, excluding everyone who thinks PvP is all proxies.
Are we seeing game one again? Because the Robo's gone down, Twilight isn't active, sends another hallucination. I wholly expect to see a Forge here for SOS.
That is a very good point. I would expect so.
Yeah, it really feels like he's kind of just saying, let's check what you're committing to first.
Yeah. Okay, it felt like a little bit later in that first game, but yes, it is. Like, he's just not going to bother. I feel like there's a reason that Blink was out of the meta for so long. The good defensive Immortal player would just be like, yeah, you know, whatever. Slightly low, you know, slower third.
It's a big investment. Takes a long time to kick in, doesn't it? So, you know, it's not guaranteed. And often a Blink player would find themselves across the other side of the map, and there's still the option of something like an Immortal drop getting you. A couple of Adept shading in if your Stalkers are on the wrong side of the map and taking out a handful of probes. So big disruption's always capable. Once again, Charge here starting up, +1 attack on the way. So very similar to game one, where we can remember SOS went for a big Charge Archon, but he missed out on sniping the third. So who knows, maybe we see an exact kind of replica of that scenario where ShoWTimE once again goes for the third, sees the attack coming, and if SOS just takes out the third base, pulls back, and is up in expansion, I really would love to see, you know, the rare thing in a tournament is the exact same matchup of builds later on in a series, but with a different outcome. So very curious to see what happens.
Let's not forget that ShoWTimE did like a Blink that he ended up canceling for that first game too. So it feels like if he has this game going for him, it feels even better than the game he even won. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Those two Hallucinate Archons in the middle of the map, I wondered if ShoWTimE took them very seriously. He did place a shield battery after scouting them, so maybe he did, but it was just like, it was literally only 2 Archons. Like, what are they doing in the middle of the map?
Yeah.
That was weird.
And the hallucination sees some stuff here. I think what's got to really just make your hair stand on end as ShoWTimE is the fact that you've seen no Immortals. What is your opponent doing here if they're not building Immortals? You know, this means they are cutting out one of the most expensive units that's really amazing the longer the game goes, but it just doesn't pack as much damage as things like Charge Zealots and Archons. So whenever you're skipping Immortals, it means you are committing harder to an aggressive short-term army. You're saving gas for things like these very quick Archons, and it really is a much more threatening set of possibilities that can come out of SOS. ShoWTimE has to be super respectful to what could come his way.
Yeah, the amazing thing about Immortals is that if they're on that back line of the Archons defending them, they get a lot of punches packed in. They can take down the Archons eventually, but it really is coming down to like the layers of a PvP engagement. If those things are jumped on by a bunch of Zealots, there's not enough Archons to take care of them. It's a very different story about the usefulness. So it is a very scary, like, just fast attack also that can happen with SOS with those charge lots. He does have an Archon drop going to the main base. ShoWTimE was suspicious of it, saw it, something like that. He just warps in the only thing he can. I think he just ran out of warp gates.
Yeah, a few Zealots going to come in. Zealots not very good at dealing with Archon drops, of course. And a few more Stalkers going to come back to shoo that away. But, I mean, there are different angles SOS can hit here. He's got a big army on the front. That drop in the back, though, it's kind of being trapped and cornered a little bit. And neither player probing right now, but that +2, as that inches closer and closer, getting up a good Archon count, as well as the upgrade advantage is going to be huge. But you know what? That's a big army. He sees it coming. You've got to be together and controlled here as ShoWTimE, and you've got to make sure that Archon drop is unable to unload in the back. He's got a line of Stalkers there, but he's just pulled them a little bit away from the edge. He's got to put those Stalkers back, I believe. Was that recalled?
That was recalled, I think.
Ooh, yes it was. Yes,
yeah.
it was.
So he correctly pulls the Stalkers forward, adding in any little bit of DPS as he is trying to hold, I mean, to that +2, but actually SOS starts his own upgrade, a +1 armor, which is very interesting to see. We see +2 like almost every game, or maybe shields, because that Archon count is growing. Okay, cancels that, which makes sense to me, but yeah, okay. +2 is going to finish for ShoWTimE, is the point. And I thought that was going to be the big question mark, and now he's going to have that upgrade advantage.
It's a big one. It still all comes down to the angle of the engagement, though. That takes priority over everything in this matchup. You want to have a large arc of units, and you want your opponent to kind of walk into your arc. Oh, no. You got ShoWTimE going way too far out on the map, getting surrounded by SOS's Zealots. He is in huge trouble.
What? I don't know why he went out on the map. I mean, he must have seen that he had the upgrade advantage, but it's not going as well as he was hoping. The Zealots do get obliterated for SOS, but he has so many Archons behind this. He's not going to try and juggle the Immortals, but why push out in that situation?
I mean, that Zealot count from SOS was insane. He had so many Zealots, and they got such good surface area. ShoWTimE there, he wanted to reassert control. He didn't have as much information there. He didn't know how many units there were. SOS's army just stretched way further back than he realized. A single Zealot chasing all the workers off ShoWTimE's third base. They're trying to run across the north of the map. Unfortunately, refugees in this battle. And look at that arc. An arc of Archons. That's like 8 Archons right now in a huge arc. You walk into that, you're going to get hit simultaneously by a lot of damage.
He's force floating off the third base as he gets a freebie kill on that. ShoWTimE may be anticipating that, thinks he has some time here to actually use his Warp Prism, not just before Zealots go across the map, but also to juggle. Like, that is a very good defensive tool that he is committing to the other side of the map, hoping that SOS isn't actually going to engage into him. And he's right about it so far, but now he's revealed that harassment. It will catch a lot of probes, and that's when SOS strikes. The Immortals do have a fair bit of buffer here to try and tear down those Archons. This might not go... I mean, there's so many Archons behind this, though, for SOS that still aren't in on the action. There's actually 3 Archons that haven't really done a lot of attacking.
Big Zealot Warp-in does come in there, though. The other Archons finally find their way to the front. The Desperation probes, not useful against that.
He just had so many Archons. Like, they're like, yeah, we're going to live. And then all of my buddies are going to come, too. Yeah, just Archons.
He's still got it. He's still got it. He knows how to make the magic happen when the pressure is on. You know, that's the perfect way to play a map like Nightshade. You get such big spread out wide open areas. The more Zealots, the more Archons. If you're patient enough, and I tell you, SOS, he's the master of patience, you will find the right engagement. Just a moment of ShoWTimE not realizing how much trouble he was in, needed to turtle up for a bit longer there. And SOS is going to go through qualifying over ShoWTimE.